Hey guys, I'm Captain Mitchell Duggar from Key West, Florida. I'm down here in Southern California to put together a series of fly casting videos to help some clients of mine. I'm going to be covering everything from the basics to troubleshooting for the more advanced caster. I hope you enjoy. All right, fantastic. So that was pretty good. Your timing on your haul and everything was just fine. One thing that I want you to kind of visualize as you're casting forward and looking is seeing that your main problem that I'm seeing right now is that your arm is pushing away from your body, almost too far out here. It's very difficult for you to keep that rod on plane than coming in here without moving your shoulders. So what you're doing you're having a tendency to cut in across your body. When you watch that loop, if that loop has an outside in roll to it, a lot of times that's caused by coming out and coming in across your body, and that can really get to hurt you. So what I want you to do on this next little session is, and I'm gonna touch your arm, go ahead and hold on to the rod. As you come back on that back cast, you're gonna accelerate this forearm, and then you're gonna open up the wrist. And this comes to about right here, okay? You're having a tendency to maybe kind of bring it out a little bit further. Let's keep that thing in a little bit tighter here. As you come forward, you're gonna almost feel like you're gonna push this rod away from your body, okay? That's gonna be the motion. Everybody has a tendency to naturally come in across your body as you go like that. So when you're coming back on this shot and this thing stops here, then you're gonna do an extension out. And one thing that you and I had talked about before about the punching is as this elbow drops in, you come to a back cast and that opens up that loop. This is where we want to see. Stop right here for a second. When you're looking at here, you want your forearm to be almost at a vertical angle here, your wrist slightly elevated. This is fine here because we're doing more of a sidearm cast, so this thing can open up, but you want your forearm straight kind of above your shoulder, okay? The other thing is you want to be careful about rolling your wrist out. If you notice here, if you look down and you see your thumb, that means that you've rolled this rod out. And when you do that, that's where a lot of your tailing loops come from. So you don't necessarily need to be holding just super like that, but you don't want to necessarily look down and see your thumb either, okay? So roll that thing back forward. Once we've come here and stopped on a complete stop on the back cast, now what we want to do is drop this elbow in and we want to go ahead and drive this hand forward. One thing that we're going to talk a lot about is the plane of this rod. And what we're trying to see is this hand basically come forward and back at the same height as it comes back and forth. Now the only way to do that and make it look more natural is with dropping the elbow. You know, you think about like on a locomotive where you have those things moving around where there's those angled elbows down there, and that's how it gets it going straight. So that elbow is going to have to drop down into that shot as you extend it forward. So in this next section, what I want you to do is pretty much keep your back cast like you have been, but as you're going forward, think about almost pushing that rod further away from your body. All right, stop right there. So on your first, now look right here. There's no way for you to get to a back cast if you look here. So bring this arm straight back. If you drop that elbow in, bam, now you're hitting yourself there, okay? So as this elbow drops down in and this rod opens up, this elbow is now going to drop down in here and you're going to extend out away from your body forward there. Go ahead and try that a couple times for me. Good. Push away from your body. Good. All right, set it down. When you look on this cast, this is actually lined up pretty good off your right hip. That's one way you can tell that you've kind of done it right. But one thing you're still doing is still bringing it out a little bit too far to this side, and you're starting to correct coming across your body, which is pretty good. One thing that I'd recommend, now that you've kind of worked up to a higher level, is go ahead and try to turn your shoulders into this cast a little bit. So step your left foot slightly forward. Perfect. Now, where this is going to become an issue is when you're going to do that, it's more natural to kind of stand that way on the boat as you're kind of getting that shot. So that way that, you know, your shoulders can kind of square and turn into. You don't want to cast with the shoulders, but you want to be able to drop in and rotate your shoulders into that cast. Where a lot of people are going to have a problem is when they do that, they're going to have a tendency to roll in, okay? So just with your left foot forward as you're doing that, remember as you come forward, it's still going to feel like you're pushing away from your body. But with your left shoulder slightly forward like that, it's going to make that a little more natural. As that sidearm cast, you can have everything just kind of right out here off your side. And don't be afraid to slightly have your chest almost squared, not quite to the camera, but about like that. Try that for a couple times for me. And remember on that forward cast, don't worry about tight loops, don't worry too much about hauling, but just do a couple, maybe 3 or 4 false casts and then set it down. Beautiful. Set it down. Fantastic, pretty good. But now you can kind of see where that line laid, right? So that line's come in, and now that line's almost off of your left side. So basically all that means is that you're still kind of crossing in on the body there. Let's try that a couple more times. Really, you know, as you're kind of seeing off, your angle right here is almost directly at or slightly right of that cone. Now granted, you do have a little bit of wind blowing you in there, but it shouldn't affect you that much. Good. One reason that you're having a little bit of a pile up there, and this is a pretty common thing, your right hand is ending on your back cast up in here. Your forward cast is down in here.
Wow.
So this is something that's really neat that you can see from this angle, is that his back cast is stopping high. As he extends forward on that forward cast, the hand drops down in. And so that creates that rod angle going down like that, which is going to either create a tailing loop or send that fly down into the water. That's bad for a couple different reasons. The first one is either the belly of the line is going to hit the water, not allowing that fly to turn over, or it's going to hit so hard that it turns over too hard and spooks the fish. Not only is this bad for presentation, but it's also bad for practice. So really make sure when we're watching on this next little section that you see where the hand stops in the back and where it stops in the forward cast. Go ahead and try that. Good. Just fine. A little bit of a pile up there. So on this next one, what I want you to think about is when you're coming forward, you're having a tendency, and you can watch it in the video later, when you come in on this forward cast, you have a tendency to decelerate and to hunch your shoulders up like that. What that basically does is there's no deceleration in a fly cast. There's a constant acceleration to a complete stop. That's where we get our loading and unloading. When you come in on those shots and you come up and you stop kind of cute, a lot of people try to do that. I call it a cute shot, where they pinch up like that. When they pinch up hard like that, it causes a tight little loop, but with no line speed at all. And so you don't get any kind of turnover, and that's why you're seeing that pile up there. On this next section, what I want you to think about doing is that there's going to be a punching bag that's going to be right here in front of you. And it's really important. I want you to punch through that bag with a full extension of the arm. And I want you to do it in a nice and slow manner. I want you to actually do this next section as slow as you think possible, and focusing on bringing that hand back. Your back cast and your angles are fine. What we're worried about doing is correcting that rounding come in your body, the top to the bottom as you're going forward, and making sure that you're punching through that bag in front of you. Remember, like we talked about before, like in a fist fight, okay? It's the same way with this rod. If you're gonna try to knock me out, I'm a big guy. You're not gonna come in and give me a decelerated, quick little slap. That's not gonna do anything. You're gonna really need to knock me out. So same way on your fly cast, just like a jab, you're gonna be extending out forward on that jab. That's gonna be your money shot, and that's what's gonna knock somebody out. If you kind of come in slapping across there, it's only gonna do something but upset somebody. So in this next one, I want you to think about the punching bag is out off your right side, and you're gonna extend through and punch through that zone there. Exactly, that's the right angle there. Let me get on this other side of you before you start, and go ahead and try that. All right, set it down. On this next little piece, and this is going to be really important for anybody watching this, when you're extending forward, it's really important to remember to follow through with your thumb as you're punching forward. What that's going to help you do is that's going to help you drive that fly line forward. You're having a tendency to sky this line, okay? You have a naturally great side-armed back cast, but then you come to a vertical place up here, okay, as you're going forward. You have a tendency to drive forward with the meat of your hand here instead of punching through that thumb. Let me show you what that looks like real quick. The difference is how you're starting and stopping, okay? Your back cast is coming down and out like this, which is fine. That's a fine rod angle and everything. But as you're going forward, you have a tendency to stop it up here high, okay? So as that skies that line, that has more effect on the wind to drift it one way or another, and it's gonna kill your accuracy. What I'm suggesting you do is driving through with the force through your thumb, okay? So the difference is stopping those rod tips out to the side as you extend forward. It's still a sidearm cast. I have this thing punching out to my side, but my forward cast and my rear cast, my hands starting and stopping at the same place as I line that thing out. When I bring that thing onto my side, it's lined up off of that right hip, okay? So it's no more force or effort than you're naturally putting in it. The only difference is how you're going forward with that forward cast. Make sure you're feeling it through your thumb. Your forward cast has a tendency to come in and stop like this, okay? So you can see that there's not much natural loop or motion. Your rod tip's not necessarily a bad place, it's just how you got it to that place, okay? And remember, wherever your rod stops on the forward cast, it should stop at that reciprocal in the back there. But what we're trying to do is establish more of a sidearm cast, okay? So that rod stops there and extends forward in a punch. Back, forward. And as I come forward, I'm punching through with that thumb to deliver that fly line in off of that right side. With the thumb. All right, send it. Send it. Beautiful. One of your better ones yet. Is that lined up off your right side? So visually you can see that now. When you look out there, you know if you're doing something right because the line's going to tell you everything. Did that line lay out straight? Did that line lay out straight off of that right hip? Did it come across my side? You can tell a lot by seeing out there what you're doing right here. That last section too, you did a really good job of keeping your hands on plane, which really helped you out. Really tightened up that loop and brought a lot more speed into it. And you did a good job with following through in that thumb as well.
Easier.
It should feel easier, exactly. When you're doing this wrong, and especially for you having a tendency to clutch up, you're going to get tight right back in here and sometimes right on top there, okay? That's pretty common. That either means that you're coming around too far here or you're kind of clutching up on that forward. It should be a lot easier and you shouldn't get that tension in that elbow. This whole thing, and one thing I really want to work with you on, is how fluid this is. When you break it down or you watch somebody that casts, it looks very, very fluid, but there's most certainly right and wrong ways to get it there, and you can feel that difference. Try that one more time for me. Send it. Beautiful, great tight loops. Is it lined up off your right side? Fantastic, good. You came into kind of a little bit of a clutch in your body there, and that's why that line piled up. This next one, I don't want you to worry about shooting line at all. All I want you to do is cast as slow as you physically think you can. Doing exactly what we've worked on. Just slow everything down. That's it. Punching out, following through with that thumb, keeping it out off the right side. We're in a fist fight here. Good, go ahead and set it down. How'd that one feel?
Really good, better. Less effort and less muscle tension.
Good.